All right, thank you everyone for attending. We will begin with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so before we begin our public comment, we have someone very special to announce. That person is our Employee of the Month, and that person is Cameron C.C. Highsmith. So not only is Cameron one of the valuable members of our Village team, but she's also the class of 2022 at Villanova. So we wanted to start by reading a letter that Matthew Weeks, the Coopers Beach supervisor, had prepared, just so everyone here tonight could understand how amazing of a job CC has done for us as our community in Southampton. So I will move forward with reading this. Dear Village Administration and Trustees, I am writing this letter to nominate Cameron Highsmith for Southampton Village Employee of the Month. Cameron is an outstanding employee and an even more amazing person. Cameron has worked with the Village for 5 years and currently serves the Village as Assistant Manager of Coopers Beach. As far as her performance goes, he writes, I first met Cameron as a 17-year-old on the verge of her senior year of Southampton High School. In the year prior to my arrival, she was the point person for the Village administration, dealing with the beach's finances, payroll, and scheduling. Now, understanding the job and the incredible upkeep needed to sustain the beach's reputation, I simply cannot believe someone at her age could have done all of it. Nevertheless, she did it, and did it with grace. Coopers Beach has had a very successful year, and a lot of it is owed to the unbelievable job of Cameron. I couldn't have been luckier to have someone of her caliber show me the ropes. This year, Cameron helped open the beach, mentor young booth attendants, and assist in the general day-to-day operations. Along with these responsibilities, Cameron has helped create a wonderful working atmosphere by creating a rapport with each and every employee and guiding them in being as effective as possible in their position. Cameron exemplifies the customer service qualities that our amazing people at Coopers Beach deserve, creating and maintaining such wonderful relationships with so many of our valued Village residents. Many skills and qualities that Cameron possesses are beyond her years, which makes her a natural when it comes to leadership. It is with great pleasure that I respectfully submit this nomination for Cameron to be recognized as the Village's Employee of the Month. Thank you. So that is from Matthew Weeks. So with that said, I think we should move forward with presenting our plaque and Employee of the Month award tonight. I can only add that we all know how tough of a job this is to do at Coopers Beach. So to have someone as incredibly talented as Cece is just amazing for our Village, and we all cannot be more proud to have her as part of our Village team. So thank you. Yeah, we get color photos. Thank you very much. Would you like maybe to hold this one? Yeah. Okay, you can hold both. Thank you. Great job. So with that said, we'll move to our public comment portion. Anyone wishing to address the board should obviously sign here in the front table. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes, and please approach the podium and state your name and address for the board minutes. So the first person to sign in is Jeff Brotlieb at 166 Halsey Street.
I'd like to reserve my comment to the second comment period.
Okay, tonight's your night, Jeff. Second is Evelyn Conrad.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Board of Trustees. Before I give you a legal opinion, I have to very briefly tell you about myself because you may have heard some conflicting things. I have an AB and MA from Stanford University before I was 21, and far more recently, I got the JD, the law degree, and an LLM, which is equivalent to an MBA in a different discipline. I am admitted to all courts in the state of New York, federal courts, Southern District and Eastern District of New York, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, and I am a member of the Bar of the United States Supreme Court. I'm very active at the City Bar of New York on the Litigation Committee, NYCLA Federal Courts Committee, ABA member of the Litigation Division. Enough said. I'm about to give you a legal opinion. I thought you should know this. Now, you need to know some facts and some history. It deals with the brick courtyard. On the 6th of December, I, at a public meeting of the Planning Board, demanded that the Planning Board vote a rescission of its negative declaration under SECRA, which meant that they were saying closing off that courtyard and putting on some more storefronts on Job's Lane would have no environmental impact. They were, of course, quite wrong. I made this demand in writing, and I read the letter purposely because it's full of a lot of legalese, and I'm about to give you a copy each. Right after I finished, another lawyer, Jeff Bregman, got up, and he's also a land use litigator, and he immediately endorsed what I said. I agree with my colleague, and so forth. Therefore, we had a demand before the Planning Board which required a certain action. It required, first of all, that there be an end to anything that they were about to do, because we were challenging their negative declaration, where they said it had no impact. Next, they had to have a public hearing, which they did not, at which we could present our expert or their expert against their expert on why this was a disastrous decision and an illegal one. This did not happen. At this point, that courtyard is being closed to the residents of Southampton, the shoppers, the visitors, and it is being done illegally. Now, I am about to give you each a letter of demand. That is the one that was given to the Planning Board on the 6th of November, so they've had ample time to do something. The only thing they seem to have done is not say anything about the fact that this brick courtyard has been closed off. And that is totally in violation of all procedures. Now, I should caution you also that the Planning Board is being advised by a lawyer who has, Bo Robinson, I think you all know Albert W. Robinson, who has committed fraud. We have it in writing. The old members of the board have had that. If you want it, I'll give it to you.
You're at 3 minutes.
The decision, I'll just finish this one sentence. The decision about 7 South Roscoe Drive, where he said, a 4-page decision, where he said in writing that that address was not was adjacent to the Roscoe Place development. It's not adjacent. It's one of the original ones. So that's only one thing. He has been misadvising both the ARB and the Planning Board. Thank you. I don't want to take anyone else's time.
Do you have any more copies? Because I'd like to have one for the record. You only gave me 5.
Yes, I know I only gave you 5. I wanted to see, no. Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. And just for the audience tonight, I did want to actually mention that we have reached out to the landlord of this courtyard, and we're prepared to offer him for free through the Village Improvement Society plantings, flowers, whatever he'd like to try to beautify the courtyard as an option at no charge to this landlord. So hopefully we'll be able to track him down, get in touch, and move forward with that. So with that said, next up is Randy Johnson.
Hi, my name is Randy Johnston. I live at 38 Dayton Lane in East Hampton, New York. I moved to the area about 3 months ago. And of course, there are always differences when you move from somewhere. I came from Colorado. One of the things I noticed right away in East Hampton basically was the lack of recycling. Not only was recycling not required at residents and businesses, when you walked on village streets and went to village beaches, there was really no recycling at all. So when I came here tonight, I thought I would do a walk around Main Street and I would see something different. but I didn't see anything different. What I saw on Main Street were a bunch of garbage receptacles full of recyclables. So I don't understand why the village wouldn't be leading by example and requiring recycling on their properties where there's public traffic, whether that be Main Street, beaches, whatever. So I don't expect you to give me an answer now, but I think that you should be leading by example and promoting recycling within village properties. So that's my message. And I also think beyond promoting recycling on your own properties, you should be taking a look at doing a little more from an aggressive perspective of promoting recycling at residences. When I lived in Colorado, we all had a trash can, we had a recycling can, and we had a compost can. We didn't really have a choice per se. And it worked just fine. When I moved here in East Hampton, I noticed, people on the street or whatever had a garbage can and everything was thrown in there and nothing was sorted out. So I think it's a big problem. We're wasting our natural resources by not recycling them. And once again, I think the village should be leading by example. So, thank you.
Thank you. We now have Linda Stabler-Talty from Post Crossing.
Hello, I'm Linda Stabler-Talty, and I live at 37 Post Crossing in Southampton. And greetings to the mayor and council people, trustees. And also thank you for your attention. So there are many of us in this audience here today, and we're here from the neighborhood that stretches from Post Crossing, up Elm, to the train station, over to North Main and back, kind of that area encompassed. We are long-term residents. Many are year-round residents, some are seasonal. We pay taxes, we vote, and we're upstanding citizens who care about the quality of life in our village. And in that area specifically, we have some issues. Some of us work in town, in the village. Some of us own local businesses or have property that we rent. So we also care about the commercial viability of this place, this wonderful place that we treasure. And we want to continue to make it a livable place and a place that thrives. My question is, why are the clubs that exist within that area that I just described allowed to kind of flaunt our village codes that I'm going to specify in a minute? And why, when I call the police at midnight to report noise and music that's so loud your chest beats literally, then the policeman goes to the establishment, the music is turned down, I go to sleep. And at 2 in the morning, I'm awakened again in an air-conditioned room, closed windows, music booming. So have to call the police, file a report. It's a long process. Our sleep is disrupted. It's not fair. We have ordinances that prohibit outside speakers, for one thing. And a couple establishments have outside speakers. They claim that they turn them off after 11 at night. That's up for question. I'm not sure about that. But definitely they have amplifiers and loud music within. These ordinance and codes also specify decibel level standards. We have several pages describing decibel levels, timing of decibels that can be heard, and the police actually have a monitor that can track this. We've been told in the past that it either doesn't work or it's not effective or can't really track it, so that's my first question. The second part is the ordinance also specifies that if those levels are exceeded, and the level reaches an annoying or disturbing the quiet comfort or repose of people in the vicinity and is plainly audible 50 feet from the area of both either the people, machines, or devices. So it's clearly doing that within a large neighborhood. Clearly we're more than 50 feet away, and again, all of us have reported at different times. We go to court, we do procedures that follow the rule of the law, and we are good citizens. So why can't these club establishments be at least good neighbors? Why can't they follow the rules and the codes within the village? And why aren't the codes being enforced is my question. We need to have
3 minutes.
Police, fire, and the other officials follow through and help us control what's happening in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. We will get to the next public comment in a second, but I would just want to add that those are some valid points, and we will be taking them very seriously. We know that our audience here tonight is comprised of many homeowners and residents who live on Post Crossing or nearby. These are very serious things. What you say is not indicative of what we believe Southampton should be like, or at least what I believe Southampton should be like. So I just wanted to add that. And I know this has been an ongoing issue, so thank you for addressing it. So with that said, we have Susan Hardinson from 95.
That's okay. Hi, I'm Susan Hoptisvin from Post Crossing, and thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to speak. I've been a resident of Post Crossing since 1997. I'm a local real estate agent. I have 2 children in the local, one of the Southampton school system. I'm an active volunteer at the Southampton Daycare Center, and I'd like to think of myself as an excellent citizen who takes great pride in our village. I've never missed a local election and the opportunity to vote. The local residents that are here today or who have written letters have worked tirelessly to stop the destruction caused by the nightclubs on Post Crossing and Elm Street. On Post Crossing, we have had some good summers when there have been restaurants that were trying their best to make good food, but sadly, they could not. We have also had really bad summers like this one, when we had the return of Zach Erdem and his attempt once again at a restaurant and his bold, brash move of his nightclub AM to 136 Main Street. Mr. Erdem simply can't run a restaurant that makes good food, but he does seem to be able to fill a nightclub with patrons who arrive in Ubers from who knows where. Probably some are underage, and many of them are coming to Southampton Village because the other areas of the Hamptons do not welcome them the way Mr. Erdem and Southampton Village does. We look the other way, even with the obvious line of speakers prominently and unabashedly displayed outside Blue Mar nightclub AM. Mr. Erdem makes no attempt to disguise the illegal activity that is going on at this establishment. Otherwise, he would do his best to clean up solo cups, beer cans and bottles, vomit, and left behind cocktails. Despite all the fines that Mr. Erdem has had in the past, we as good citizens have to start the fight all over again. In 2011, both the New York State Troopers and the New York State Liquor Authority raided what was at the time Nello's Summertime. Mr. Erdem was not managing at that time, but he did come back to run Kozu, another failure of his that caused so many sleepless nights and hours at the courthouse trying to get fines imposed, which we did in a record amount. But even that does not deter a person like Zach Erdem. So this time, we're going to get back up. On behalf of the neighborhood, I have begun interviewing off-duty police officers for assistance. Suffolk County has plenty of them that would like the extra hours, and they know the law. I hope that our new mayor and current trustees will do what no other administration have done in the past and prohibit nightclubs on Post Crossing and Elm Street. The village of Patchogue banned them last year. We can do the same. And frankly, the residents, taxpayers are owed that support, not Zach Erdem. And I have a large number of letters because many of our residents live in New York City. We have photographs. We have past articles. There's a lot of good information in here, so I hope you'll have the time. And thank you very much.
Thank you. And next we have Jay Fitzpatrick.
Thank you. I don't know how this is going to work, but so there you go. This is some video I took outside my house, across from the Social Club.
You have to please state your name and come to the
Jay
microphone.
Fitzpatrick, 243 Elm Street.
Thank you.
This is what goes on every Friday and Saturday night at Post Crossing and Elm Street. This is only going to take about a minute. You can't see it, but
No, you can.
the chaos that we go through every night.
Here goes the cops. Hey.
Unfortunately, I've seen this before. It's not good. I have to clean up the mess in front of my own store.
Okay, well, this is
Coming in the back, so.
This is the police raiding a big DJ party at 230 Elm. It was
Let's
horrible.
quiet things down for a little bit anyway.
July 3rd. This just shows you the chaos that goes on every night, okay?
Jersey.
You don't see it, but we do. We're tired of it. Maybe that's the end. This is a picture of
Please stay at the-
trash and the garbage.
You stay at the microphone.
This is a picture of the trash and the garbage outside the social club on this Memorial Day, Sunday morning. They pick it all up. It all gets cleaned up. But now you see what made this the night before, okay? If I still have a second, I can read. I and other concerned residents, many of whom are here tonight, have presented our concerns and frustrations about the nightclubs, bars, catering hall chaos at the north end of Elm Street and the west end of Post Crossing for 2 previous mayors and trustees. Yet here we are again. We asked for a little help, but so far all we've gotten is a lot of sympathy. Both Southampton Social Club and 230 Elm, a.k.a. the Police Club, have both reached out and made efforts to be better neighbors by reducing the music volume and by supporting charitable events. The jury is still out on T-Bar and Blue Mars, so I'm not going to address what happens inside the clubs. I only want to talk about what happens outside. That's what you just saw every night. Every Friday and Saturday night from 9 to 5 in the morning, all summer long, and many weekends in the winter, hundreds of partiers and clubbers, some local but many from Up Island and points beyond, descend upon our village, lured by the social media and the pulsating bass of the spinning DJs, fueled by alcohol, searching for parties, yelling and screaming and fighting when they're not permitted in. Then they go on to the next venue with drinks in their hand, drunk stumble, open containers spill over, limos, cabs, Uber, honk beep, ignore parking regulations, all leaving behind trash, litter, red and blue cups, whiskey and beer bottles, urination, condoms, undergarments in their wake.
You're at 3 minutes.
Okay, that's it. Do I sound pissed off?
Thank you, Jay.
You're welcome.
Next is Bob Coffey. And Bob, I know you're obviously here for the same reason.
Yeah.
We'd also love to hear suggested solutions to this because we're, as I said earlier, this is a serious problem. I hope this board will take it very seriously, which we will.
Yeah,
And,
we're looking for a solution. I don't want to be repetitive. The 2 previous speakers pretty much outlined the nature of the problem. You're our neighbors as well as our representatives. I think you have great sympathy for an issue of this kind. I, unfortunately, am the oldest resident here on Post. I've been there 40 years. Through the decades. It's been a restaurant, and we greatly would love a successful restaurant/lodging venue, but a nightclub's so inappropriate for this community, it's ludicrous. And through the decades, I've watched communities like Hampton Bays, the Southampton town, put the kibosh on the entire nightclub scene. I think Woody Barnes open on Sundays alone in the daytime or something like that. But they closed all the oceanfront venues and most of the clubs. Mercy did it with Conscience Point and another nightclub. Nightclubs are history. This is the Hamptons. This is our residential community. The money that's been applied into my community in the 40 years, people earn their $3, $4, $5 million bucks. We don't want people unconscious on our front lawn. It's happened to Susan earlier this season. We don't want litter on the street. It's so inappropriate for the community. But we want a solution. We want to just stand here complaining. And I'd like everyone who's concerned in our group to raise their hand just to show the number of people. It's a big issue here. And I want to congratulate Trustees Parrish, Pilar, Mayor Warren. It's nice to have a new regime, and we wish you the best of luck. And I sincerely hope you can help us deal with this. I just simply think that there's no straddle here. We can't, for people to have successful nightclubs, they have to have loud music and lots of young, drunken people, right? I mean, that's the price of success in that business, and I get it. I was in the bar and restaurants business in New York City for many years, so I get the whole thing. But it's wildly inappropriate. And there's no symmetry between individual businessmen and the community at large. Period, end of story. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who's interested in making a public comment? So with that said, we will move to, there are no board presentations this evening. Wayne, I know we are to move to public hearings. We do have a member or two from the Southampton Arts Center. I believe they have to leave at 7 p.m. So I don't know if anyone is interested in saying anything. We do have something later on the agenda tonight in discussion items regarding a new program we'd like to roll out. So I don't know if anyone's interested. If you are, I think maybe that'd be a good time in case you have to leave. So thank you. Is that okay?
Fine.
Okay.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Tom Dunn. I'm the Executive Director of the Southampton Arts Center. This is my associate, Amy Kerwin. She's the Artistic Director of SAC. I know there's an agenda item for later on for open for discussion about public art in storefronts, and we just wanted to come out to formally lend our support and interest in partnering with the Village of Southampton. Over the last 5 years, SAC has presented the art of over 200 East End-based artists, and so the idea of working with you all to animate and activate the village where there are empty storefronts, where we can potentially commission some art to be made in that space or to hang existing art. We would welcome the opportunity to partner with you all, and just wanted to formally express our support in that regard.
Thank you very much.
I can always add more work to my workload itself.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity, and we look forward to working with you and, sort of defining the scope of what this is and sort of thinking through the elements of execution and what that entails. So we are willful partners in that regard.
Thank you. Just as a preview for what is a discussion item coming tonight, we have reached out to the Art Center, as we've heard, and the team there has agreed to work with the village and an outreach to the landlords who have the vacant storefronts and provide artwork, or even more so, a curated walking art exhibit that could exist through Job's Lane and even Windmill Lane, so our village, especially come this fall, does not look empty and appears a bit more vibrant. And to those here from Post Crossing, to me, that's our definition of vibrancy, not a nightclub, which is inappropriate. So just to add on that. So thanks again, everyone at the Art Center. Good luck this evening on the event. And with that said, we will have our first public hearing.
I'll entertain a motion to open a public hearing for a local law amending the code of the Village of Southampton to add a new Chapter 40, balloons, regulating the release of balloons.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wayne, do you want to introduce?
If it's okay, Mr. Mayor, I'll give you a little background.
Thank you.
The prior board, including the two trustees here, over the last year or so, have been discussing the issues related to the release of balloons, both from an environmental and health safety. If everyone recalls, it was 3 4th of Julys ago, a Mylar balloon was released and hit the power lines and caused a power outage on the 4th of July in the village, among other things. However, it's been something that's been recognized by many communities of the environmental damage that occurs by the improper disposal of balloons. And I think in your package, you'll actually see, I think Trustee Allen has pictures that she may want to share. That was the number of balloons that just are picked up by our Parks Department on our beaches. Nonetheless, the proposal in front of the board actually mirrors legislation that the town of East Hampton and the town of Southampton have recently adopted. It prohibits the intentional release of balloons, and it would be a new chapter of the code and would something this board wanted to at least put out, or the prior board wanted to put out for discussion and get the community's input. And like I said, the Southampton Town Board just recently at their last meeting adopted pretty much the identical legislation. So unless Trustee Allen has something else to share as far as the pictures.
Thank you, Counselor. Actually, that picture comes from Erin at Topier, and she had provided balloons in her, does that need to be turned around, Charlie? Anyway, she offered up her balloons with her flower arrangements, and one day somebody from, I guess, the village showed her this picture, and after seeing this, she said, "That's it, I'm done. I'm not going to sell balloons anymore." She sent her helium tank back. So having said that, the real cause, as Councilor Boone mentioned, was we had a power outage 2 years ago on the 4th of July, and I actually remember you coming up to me saying you had several people come to your store with several $1,000 transactions. It couldn't be executed. I'm sure you had the same problems, and the nearlying residents. So there was, a financial impact to the village. California alone has over 1,000 a year, and they're looking at a ban. But the point is, there's a electrical impact. Mylar balloons conduct electricity. So right there, any Mylar balloon that hits one of our wires has a good chance of creating an outage for the village. The second thing is, an outage isn't good for us financially. And third of all, the wildlife aren't here to be able to plead their case. But we're told by the trustees that every time they perform an autopsy, what they find is little balloon pieces all over, and that's leading to their demise. So that's the background as to why we brought this forward, several months back. So,
just want to add, I just read only within the last hour, there's an article in this week's Southampton Press that at the county level, currently their legislation prohibits or permits the release up to, I think it's 25 balloons. However, the county legislature is going to consider changing their law also to prohibit the release of zero amount of balloons. So I think it's something widespread.
I just wanted to thank Trustee Allen for this. This was a piece of legislation that was done before the election, and so Trustee Allen has taken the lead here, so thank you very much for doing so. And this is also something that the town of Southampton has recently passed, so just wanted to thank you for that, for the good work. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on this?
Did we officially open the public hearing?
Yeah, we opened it.
Okay. Because before we open it up to the public, I didn't know if anybody else wanted to comment, but that was the background.
You gave that history the other day.
Yes, but we didn't have Andrew in place. And you and I know this, but yeah. And we also reached out to all the businesses within the village to give them a heads up. I don't know if anybody's in the audience today, and to solicit a pulse of where they stand with regards to this legislation. So.
Please.
Randy Johnston, 38 Dayton Lane, East Hampton, again. I was here a month or so ago at your last meetings. I was at the wrong meeting about this issue. And I moved here and started patrolling the beaches, not patrolling them, but that's what I ended up doing now, I guess, in some ways. And all I found was garbage every morning. I went for a walk, and it was really sad. And one of the things I prominently saw was balloons. Many of them on every morning, basically. So as I walk into local grocery stores and whatever, I would say to my friends, it's unbelievable that you can buy a balloon here on the island, given the problem that we have with our balloons. So the proposal that we have or whatever is great. It's creating a lot of awareness with respect to the issue. But what you're basically doing is the same thing that the town did. You're doing the same thing that the town of East Hampton did, which is to put a Band-Aid on the problem. An unintentional release is no different than an intentional release. The environmental externalities and the wildlife externalities associated with having balloons in our environment aren't easy to mitigate. There's really no reason to have a helium balloon in Southampton. We can arrange our parties a little bit, maybe, and find something else rather than a helium balloon. And there's a shortage of helium across the world. So why not, again, lead by example? Let's do something different here in Southampton and not follow the same thing that everybody else is doing, just banning the release of balloons, and take a step a little bit further and get balloons out of our environment completely. They don't really need to be here. There are other options. So that's really, I think, the way we should be going. Environmentally, for the wildlife, from a helium perspective, whatever. It's just too hard to control. You can't enforce that law. I mean, if I'm having a party at home and my little niece has a balloon and it falls out of her hand, well, it's obviously unintentional, but the consequences are dire. There's no reason for her to have the balloon. So let's take a step forward, lead by example, and create something that's a little bit different than what everybody else is doing. I think, to be honest with you, that balloons shouldn't be sold anywhere on the island. And that's kind of the push I'm making, because I'm making the same push in other communities. So that's my thought. So thank you again for creating the awareness. Your picture is what I see almost every day, and hopefully we can take it a step further. Thanks.
Thank you.
Opening it up to public comment now.
Good evening. Fran Adamczewski, 40 West Prospect Street. Welcome, Mayor.
Thank you.
Trustees, Mark, Andrew, everybody else. Evening. Exactly. I've been pushing for banning balloons for years in Southampton. Ban them. No balloons at all. I know there's balloons for parties and stuff like that. It's like you said, the consequences are dire. Dead animals, turtles, dolphins, fish, all the garbage washing up on the beach. As a surfer, I pick up at least 50 every time I go to the beach. Like he said, let's take a step further. Let's ban them completely. Ban them. There's other ways. You want to party, get a bouquet of flowers. Much better. Better for the environment. So let's take a step forward and maybe ban them all. We don't really need it. So that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran.
Thank you, Fran. And just so you know, we just want to get this on the books right now, and then we hopefully will take the next step.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment? Any other board members?
One comment, which is you mentioned helium, and I didn't realize this, but helium is a finite resource. It's used for MRIs and scientific research. So,
Yeah, we're running out of.
yeah.
One thing I'm going to research is, can we reach out to some of the online retailers who ship to us, and can we say, don't ship here? We don't know if that's possible, but we'll at least reach out to them and see if they're willing to work with us. I've actually heard that some are willing to do something like that, but again, we will open up that dialogue, see who we can get in touch with. But I think that'd be an interesting conversation to have, and maybe other villages and towns across the country maybe have done something like that. We'll do our research. Like I said, we want to get this on the books so we can take the next step, but for right now, I think this is a good piece that does mirror what we've done in the town of Southampton and East Hampton. So with that said, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
So are we ready to vote?
For what? The
For
intentional release
this law?
or the ban?
No, for
This law right here.
It's not right here, okay.
If I could just say for a second, Counselor, do you recommend that we hold it for more comment on this from the public, at least till next meeting, or?
Well, that's up to the board. If you feel like you need further comment on this law, again, if you're going to change the law in any material way, you would have to renotice and otherwise. So if the board's inclined, as the mayor has stated, this would be a first step, but you could continue looking at the other things. I think one of the things it's hard as a small village to be isolated in how you approach something, especially sale or otherwise, when someone can merely go across the village line and acquire something or otherwise. It would be interesting to see what happens at the county level. As you know, if something's banned at the county level, we can figure out what they're trying to do and maybe mirror something or whatever other steps. But if you feel that you have enough public input at this time on this provision, we can continue, or you could keep it open and consider adoption at another time. It's up to the board.
I mean, my take is that the town of Southampton just passed this, so did the town of East Hampton, so I kind of feel like we're already playing from behind here. So we might as well just get up to speed just so we're on equal playing field with the other municipalities surrounding us.
No, I agree. I have no problem. I'll move ahead with it. So I'm not sure.
Yep.
Councilor weighs in.
So we'll entertain a motion for the adoption of local law number 7 of 2019, a local law amending the code of the Village of Southampton to add a new Chapter 40 balloons, regulating the release of balloons.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Trustee Yastrzemski.
Aye.
Trustee Allen.
Aye.
Mayor Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Parrish.
Aye.
Trustee Polero.
Aye. Local law number 7.
7.
All right, so we have our second public hearing.
Entertain a motion to open a public hearing on a local law amending Chapter 116, 9A, 11F, and 116, 11F6 to require landscaping and screening of tennis courts and flagpole lots as per specifications of the building inspector.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
As a matter of explanation, this is a local law that was generated by the building department. It had to do both procedural and substantive as far as the review. Currently, the code in 2 instances requires an applicant seeking to build either a tennis court or to do construction on a flag lot that they submit as part of their application a landscape plan. And that landscape plan is required to be reviewed by the planning board. These laws were adopted 15 to 20 years ago, and it's been 15 or 20 years of experience of both with the planning board and the building department. It's pretty pro forma as far as the specifications, including, for example, tennis courts are to be sunken 3 feet, and that's been pretty much the standards for the planning board. It's not in our statute, but that's been their standards, among other things, as far as the landscape requirements. The building department is suggesting that to help facilitate the review and assistance of our residents in making these applications, often, depending on the calendar and when you get on the planning board, it could take 1 or 2 months to get that planning board review. And at the end, we also have our consultant review it, only to say at the end it meets all the specifications that we've told them to do at the beginning. And it takes 2 months to get past that point. So this proposed law would, in both instances, have the building department develop standards that they can publish, that they would hand out with an application that have been developed pretty much what the planning board has done in the last 15 to 20 years. And if the applicant provides those plans and it meets those standards on the face of it, they can be issued a building permit forthwith. However, if the landowner wants to change the specifications or disagrees with some part of the specifications, they still have the opportunity to go to the planning board and present their case to do something different. So this would help facilitate the review that's been sort of pro forma. It'll eliminate probably some portions of the agenda that the planning board is seemingly addressing, which, again, is taking them away from more valuable planning issues. So that's the proposal. I understand we have a letter from the Suffolk County Planning Commission.
We have a letter from the Suffolk County Planning Commission that says it's a matter for local determination. At this point, we've not received comment from the Southampton Village Planning Commission.
So with that said, is there anyone on the board who would like to comment on this?
Other than, are we going to wait for planning commission comments? Is that what, is that what
Are we
I
obligated
would
to do
infer
that?
from that?
Your statute, requires that you make the referral. There's no time period in that. I don't know, I don't think they had a meeting where they could have. Their meeting is next week, so it might be giving them an opportunity to meet next week and review this, and maybe at your next meeting, consider whatever comments they have and any other comments from the public in the interim.
So if there's anyone who'd like to comment publicly, please feel free to do so. If not, I would suggest we leave this open until we can hear from the Suffolk County.
No, village.
And we'd like to have Chris Talbot, our building inspector, at the next meeting. He wasn't able to make it tonight.
So you can opine, okay.
We'll make a motion to adjourn the public hearing until the July 23rd, 2019 meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. All right, we'll now move forward with suggested resolutions.
Okay. Entertain a motion resolved that the reading of the minutes for the public session of June 25th, 2019 be dispensed with, and that those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator, and that the actions taken at that meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved.
So moved.
Motion? Second?
Second.
On a comment. Did some research with regards to the fact that this was a meeting that was held in June prior to 3 board members being on the board. The resolution is for the village board to accept the filing of the minutes. It is not for the purposes of them approving it. So essentially, they've been presented, they've seen the minutes. Essentially, what we're doing is getting approval to accept the minutes as I filed them. So it's not necessarily an approval. The 2 people who could make amendments to that, to those minutes would be, Trustees Allen and Yastrzemski. However, the whole board has an opportunity to just to vote in favor of accepting those minutes and putting them as part of the permanent record of the village. That being, any question?
No, I just think the audience should understand why we're debating this. The point is, we were the only 2 present in June, and we are the only 2 reviewing those minutes, which I have, and we don't have a quorum from that period, so we can't get a vote on it. Is that
No, that is not correct.
You can get a vote.
But
Only
only
2
if
people
you-
approving them. All you're doing is accepting them for the public. Correct.
Right, but that's the difference,
Correct.
accepting versus
Only-
approving.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Only you and I could actually
Right.
review this and make
That's
sure.
actually what you do every meeting. No change in that, but he's just clarifying
I'm
that.
clarifying that right now, on a motion, no one can, other than the 2 of you, make a motion to change.
Yeah, if you wanted to change it, only you 2.
Only we can.
Right.
Because we were the only 2
That's correct.
present.
Yes.
But now all 5 of us can actually accept them
Yes.
as written.
Yes. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I ask one thing, Russ? Communications to the board, did we went right?
Skip the move.
Went right past.
We did.
Yeah.
We can go back.
Were there any that insisted upon being read into the record for here? for
Yeah.
tonight?
Yeah. If the mayor, right with the mayor.
We could do, I was going to run through these real quick, get them done with, and then move to the
Okay.
communications, but
That's-
I'm fine either way.
Oh,
If that's, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll now entertain a motion resolved that the reading of the minutes for the organizational meeting of July 1, 2019 be dispensed with, and that those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator, and that the actions taken at that meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved that the claims for the warrants dated July 11th, 2019, totaling $52,598.04, that's warrant 5, general fund 1819 payables, and $444,235.41, warrant number 4, general fund, and $21,857.70, warrant number 3, capital reserve fund, and the village payroll for the period from June 21st, 2019 to July 4th, 2019 be audited and approved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Invoices over $1,000. Coastal Fire Systems, $1,479.25. That's field service for compressed breathing air system at the fire department. Fluid Imagery, $2,505. That's Wi-Fi for Coopers, update for spam protection, and various repair to desktops throughout the village. 4-Star Refrigeration, $1,445. That's for maintenance on 4 ice machines at all firehouses. G&M Dige, Inc., $1,216.27. That's repairs to the village gas boy system. Johnson's Controls, Security Solutions, $1,581.98. Those are invoices that we've been working on from October of 2017 through January of 2019 for the security system at Flying Point Road Fire Facility. Nelson Pope and Voorhees, $9,358.75. That's engineering consulting support for the village board and administrative boards. Office of the State Comptroller, $10,106. That's the state portion of fines in our Justice Court for the month of May. Elbert Robinson Jr., $23,360. Those are legal services for administrative boards and an issue in front of Supreme Court for the period of time of January of 2019 through April of 2019. July general disbursements. Admit Computer Services, $22,074. That's the annual maintenance contract for Impact Software, which runs our CAD, RMS, and E91 systems for the police department. Atlantic Coast Embroidery, $3,348.25. That's T-shirts for all DPW staff. Barnwell House of Tires, $1,180.68. Those are tires for the police department. William Bates, $1,300.20. That's Medicare reimbursement. Boundtree Medical, LLC, $3,424.67. That's ambulance medical supplies. Cast Productions, $2,700. That's our videographer for the month of June. Coastal Fire Systems, Inc., $3,900. That's to inspect and test the fire department's self-contained breathing apparatus tanks. CSEA employee benefit, $31,374.36. That's the dental and vision premium for July. Nancy DePetris, $1,056.60. Medicare reimbursement. Richard DePetris, $1,056.60. That's Medicare reimbursement. Antoinette Edwards, $1,390. That's minutes for administrative boards. Eileen M. Toohey, $1,409.38. That's for outside accounting services. First Presbyterian Church, $3,000. That's parking lot rental for the month of July. Fowler's Garden Center, $2,490.52. Supplies and materials, primarily for the Parks Department. Granger, $3,756.14. That's various supplies for most of the invoices on the top. And Super Saver garbage receptacles is the $2,619.72 for the Highway Department. Herrick Hardware, $1,908.17. It's supplies and materials for multiple departments throughout the village. Island Tech Services, $4,025. That's update Microsoft products to Office 365 and email hosting and virus protection. Johnson Control Security Solutions, $1,785.21. Quarterly billing for cameras at 4 firehouse locations. Johnson Electrical Construction Corporation, $1,420. That's traffic signal maintenance. Lipsky Enterprises, Inc., $28,107.08. That's the Nugent Carriage House restoration and is a reimbursable grant from DASNY. Malvisi Equipment, $1,563.82. Heavy equipment parts and parts mostly for the Parks and Highway Department. Mayday Communications, $22,260. That's annual maintenance on the Motorola console for the Police Department. Messiano Consulting, $1,960. That's grant writing and follow-up services. Morgan Auto Supply, $3,343.68. Various parts for the fleet. Patricia Munn, $1,300.20, Medicare reimbursement. Norsec & Son, $5,553.66. The majority of that's for the 3 times a week, 6-yard front load trash removal. Optimum, $1,407.31. That's monthly cable internet services for multiple departments.
New York State Insurance Fund on the previous page. Just under Norsec.
Yep, thank you. New York State Insurance Fund, $3,161.96. That's the New York State Disability Insurance Policy. I did Optimum. PSEG, Long Island Collection Services, $3,594.83. That's Village Electric Services across the village. Ronco, $2,629.55. Cleaning supplies, custodial supplies for all facilities. Rosemar Construction, Inc., $190,407.17. That's spring paving on multiple village roads. Century Auto Fire Protection, $2,800. Replace, relocate fire sprinklers at the SCC. Shoreline Towing, $1,650. That's towing expenses for impound. Sprague Operating LLC, $5,556.50. That's fuel for the fleet. Suffolk County Village Officials, $1,250. That's the 2019-2020 dues. Vehicle Tracking Solutions, $1,271.47. That's GPS for the fleet. Verizon, $3,697.14. Telephone expenses. Verizon Wireless, $1,965.99. Wireless expenses. W&G Services, $6,604. Repairs to the condenser and coil at 151 Windmill and HVA system at 25 Jobs Lane. WB Mason and Company, $2,429.93. Office supplies for all departments. Roy Wines III, $1,300.20. Medicare reimbursement. Moving on to...
There's...
Did you want me?
No, at the end, I will. Mayday Communications, this is the capital disbursements, $1,741. That's the radios for the PD Communications Capital Project. Municipal Testing Laboratory, $1,616.70. That's concrete testing at the Ambulance Barn Capital Project. SCC Construction Management Group, $18,500. That's general contracting services for the ambulance project. And before we vote on, we have a motion and a second. I would like to take out of order one bill. There's an invoice here for $64.95 to Sip and Soda that I'd like to have a motion to pay, a separate motion to pay.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
So that was for...
Recusal.
One recusal
You want me to explain what it was?
It's okay.
No, you don't have to.
Okay. There's a motion and a second to approve the rest of the warrant. All in favor?
Aye. Okay. Thank you, Mark. With that said, we can move forward with communications to the board. First, we have a communication regarding the Suffolk County Department of Economic Development and Planning, specifically related to the Gin Lane stormwater improvements.
Got it. Sorry. Dear Administrator Cradaville, we are pleased to inform you that the Suffolk County WQPRP Review Committee has recommended your Gin Lane Stormwater Improvements Project for $116,696 in the Suffolk County WQPRP funding at the June 20th, 2019 meeting. This funding supplements prior phases of the Lake Agawam Stormwater Project. Note that the county has funded 3 phases of this project for a total of $249,682 since 2012. And it goes on to talk about what the next phase of that is. Nothing, no questions, or Gary, if you have anything that you think you need to add to that?
And Gary, thank you. This is really good news, so we really appreciate it.
Talk long about good news.
Long about good news. So we're very fortunate. Jen Messiona and I worked together with Nelson and Pope on this grant. We went to the county. The county approved 50% funding of the project. It was about $116,000, I believe, was the award. And what this project is, it's a combination. Actually, I have a drawing of it. This is a combination of rain gardens and standard drainage on Gin Lane. And what we've done there is we've incorporated two different styles of drainage, and what this will do is this will completely remove the outfall pipe that goes into Lake Agawam from that Gin Lane corridor, which also comes from South Main. An important thing I would like to say about this project is that the area closest to the lake, the shoreline, will include shrubs that will completely screen this project off from the lake, so no neighbors will be affected by any, roadway vision. All right, so any questions about it? So generally, we've gotten a 50% payment of this, and we are going to be applying to the state for the other 50% this month. So hopefully we'll have full funding and be able to proceed with this in the spring.
This is great. Thank you, Gary.
Second, communications from the trustees of the town of Southampton to allow certain 4x4 permit holders to use Lake Agawam parking lot as mitigation for beach driving closures due to piping plover and least turn activity on the ocean beach. And essentially their resolution resolves that vehicles bearing a valid 2019 town trustees 4x4 permit and a 2019 Southampton Village 4x4 driving permit shall be permitted to park in the Lake Agawam parking located in the incorporated village of Southampton. Any car using the Lake Agawam parking lot pursuant to this resolution must have both of the aforementioned permits, and it be further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. And I do think we got at correspondence. Did you get a copy of the correspondence, Wayne? From
Yeah.
Okay, good. You could read that as well.
So we did, so this board should know this sort of follows the issue is related to the drive-on beach area and the piping plover issue and the restrictions that are there. So the village board at its last meeting on June 25th, as you know, there's parking at the heliport, and that is village parking by permit only. And this board agreed to assist residents who cannot drive on, at least be able to park in particular. So there was a suspension of the requirements under Chapter 86 of our code that require that permit, so long as you had both the town and the village 4x4 parking permits. So that was adopted by this board on June 25th. In light of that, the town trustees trying to assist the same issue that the village board recognized, and residents realizing that they have a parking area at the south end of Agawam that is their property, and they require permits for that. In the past, the town trustees have agreed with the village that the village assists them in enforcing that, and right now our police department and code enforcement enforce those parking restrictions, again, under Article 1 of Chapter 86. So we received correspondence that is asking that this board also, similar to what the town trustees and what you did at the other end of the heliport parking, also suspend for the period until the full beach access on the drive-on beach is lifted. Also suspend the parking to the extent that you have to have the 4x4 parking permits. So you would, if you have both the village and the town 4x4 parking permits, you would be allowed to also park at the Agawam parking area in addition to having your village sticker, if either one would work. Just in that regard, we've heard from code enforcement that they've been issuing, and we're totally unaware that the town trustees at least adopted that resolution, and only until recently when the resolution and this notification asking you to also adopt this similar suspension would be in effect. So they've had a little confusion down there as well currently.
I think it's important, Wayne, at about, I guess, 5:15 or so today, we received correspondence that Fish and Wildlife, and I'm going to read this correspondence, This is a letter that was sent to the Senior Fish and Wildlife Service biologist, and then Gary has informed me that they have approved this plan, so I'm going to read it. As you are aware, 2 broods are being monitored on the ocean beach in the area of 1860 Meadow Lane and 1770 Meadow Lane, Southampton, New York. This area includes the Shinnecock East County Park and the Southampton Village Town Drive-On Beach picnic area within 1,000 meters of the brood. We will address the picnic area in this letter, as the county will address its own program for Shinnecock East County Park. In order to comply with federal piping plover guidelines, the Southampton Town Trustees have ordered the closure of the picnic area beginning June 25th, 2019, which is the expected hatch date of the brood, and have monitored the broods on a daily basis with the help of Suffolk County Parks. This area provides recreational opportunities for some 200-plus residents at a time. In order to strike a balance that will protect the piping plovers from any take and will allow our residents limited 4x4 access to the picnic area, we propose the following. For the remainder of July, or until the chicks are confirmed fledges, 4x4 access to be allowed to drive on at Jim Aries Way on Saturdays and Sundays, only during the hours of 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The gate on Road F will remain to be locked except for emergency response. Educational and informational signage will be posted for the affected area. Before the start of daily 4x4 access, Plover Monitor will inspect, locate plover brood chicks. Once completed, a monitor will be stationed at the snow fence located on the beach the entire time of operation, monitoring with a spotting scope. In any of the plover broods come within 200 meters of the 4x4 area, all 4x4 driving will cease. Vehicles will be prohibited to operate on the beach until the brood leaves the 200-meter buffer or is escorted off the beach by a plover monitor. During the weekdays, trustee monitors will be filling in the days in which the county monitors will not be monitoring the picnic area. Trustee monitors will be responsible for 3 days during the week, as well as Saturday and Sundays, leaving 2 days for the county to monitor. County parks will be advised by our plover monitoring staff in regards to the movement of the broods. A police officer supplied by the Southampton Village PD will be present at all times during the operation. Dogs will not be permitted on the beach. Rope fencing will be located on the beach from the toe of the dune to the high water mark to stop 4x4 access towards the brood. So essentially, it has been approved that on Saturdays and Sundays between the hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. that 4x4 access will be allowed on Jim Aries Way to the picnic area. Is there anything you want to add, Gary?
That pretty much covers it. The plan is for our highway department to go down and assist the town trustees tomorrow in putting a fence up about 200 meters to the west of Road F, Gary Mack Way. So that fence line will go in, and that area that's left from that fence line to the county park, about 1,900 feet, will be open, and we feel that that's enough room to handle the 4x4 drivers without any safety issues.
And we have to have a police officer there on Saturday and Sunday, all day long, 10 to 6?
Correct. And,
stationed where? In the parking area or on the beach?
No, beyond the beach. Southampton Village Police already has an officer that's down there, and I did speak to Chief Cummings, and he's accommodating.
And that's because of the piping plover monitor will be operating at the same time, too?
It is, and when the time comes that we have to get people off the beach at 6 o'clock, we don't want to have any issues, arguments, et cetera. And if the plovers should move across that line further, we'll also have to close the beach, so we'll ask the police department for assistance in telling people to leave the beach.
Gary, what's the signage, and if we have signage, how effective do you think it is?
As far as the plovers?
Yep.
It's the standard plovers, Fish and Wildlife, that's there. It's a very generic sign that they put out. It explains the bird, the habitats, and why we're doing things. But we could place signage there showing the hours and the rules we're going to follow.
I think we should, because I've had a couple people call me and say, am I allowed to be on the beach? They're completely unaware. So.
We've been trying since yesterday, really, to try to get this program. Once we see the birds started to move, many people are inquiring, that they want to get back on that beach, and this is at least a start. Hopefully, this will stay this way until August, and those birds will fledge, and then we can open the whole thing up.
How about any sort of pamphlet or writing or something that the police officer or the monitor or something can have if people have questions or anything on there?
I can ask the town trustees. I'm not sure what they have in their office, but we can certainly ask them to provide that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. I'm sure a lot of happy people out there with that news.
So that being said, you still have the request. You'll note that this solution at least is only on the weekends, so you have at least 5 other days. There's a concern in where or how. So I think the town trustees are looking for support, at least on the enforcement and allowing additional beach parking for the people that have 4x4 in an alternate location. So I think it would be appropriate for the board to adopt a resolution similar to what was adopted on June 25th, suspending the requirements of the provisions of Article 1 of Chapter 86, and with the specifications that you have to have the town and the village 4x4 beach passes to qualify to park there, or to have the Agawam parking permit, either one. And that would be until such time as the access is lifted, which is similar to what the town trustee resolution and what the resolution of this board adopted for the heliport parking area.
So will someone move that motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
We need to do a roll call because we're amending? No.
You're not amending, you're just suspending enforcement.
And we also have communications that came in later of a letter from Diane Harold, architect, in reference to comments about our village architectural review board. That is what we have for communication.
So now you're back to resolutions.
I believe we...
Okay. So, moving back to resolutions, we'll entertain a motion resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby ratifies the promotion of James Malone to lifeguard effective June 28, 2019 at a rate of $13.50. So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby ratifies the hiring of Marco Marsans to lifeguard effective July 8, 2019 at a rate of $13.50.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby ratifies a rate of $12 an hour for Benjamin Luss, beach attendant, when assigned as shuttle driver, effective June 29, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the hiring of Amanda Menino as a beach attendant at a rate of $9, effective July 12, 2019.
Russell, I have a question regarding that.
Yes.
Can we pay someone $9 per hour? I think that's less than minimum wage.
Yes, as a municipality.
Okay, just confirming.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby ratifies the hiring of Caroline Palumbo to booth attendant effective July 10th, 2019 at a rate of $10.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so at this point, we can move forward with discussion items, unless, Wayne, there's anything else we need to bring up. So the first discussion item, and there's some other discussion items which I know we're looking forward to discussing this evening. So first and foremost, we'd like to move forward with Mahoney Associates, the request for Downs Park on August 12th, 2019.
Julie, do you have a little background on that?
So this is a request that's made every year. The only thing that we need to check on is to make sure that it doesn't conflict with soccer. Looking at the schedule, I do not believe it does because soccer ends at 1 o'clock, so there shouldn't be an issue, but I would like to just double check that with our Parks Department supervisor to make sure there's no other conflicts that day, any other games or, but otherwise it is their annual event, and they asked for August 12th, but if that date wasn't good, they would also do August 19th. They're very flexible. They do this every year. They clean up after themselves. It's just a nice thing that we allow them to do. So if you'd like, I'm happy to check in with our park supervisor just to make sure there's no conflicts on that date, or if there's a date that we would prefer.
We'll also ask them to provide a certificate of insurance.
Exactly.
That's a Monday.
It is a Monday.
So we could entertain a motion that says, provided that there is no existing conflict, that the village board accepts the request for Mahoney and Associates to use Downs Park on Monday, August 12th, rain date August 19th.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right, the next discussion item we have here tonight is surf school. So for some of you, you may be aware that at the moment, for whatever reason, Southampton Village does not have a surf school, and currently we do not have surf lessons as we have done in the past. There are many reasons for that, and many good reasons for that. But with that being said, I think it's important that given that we're a beach community, that we're a community of many generations, that we would really like to have a surf school in Southampton Village. So there's a number of things that I think would be beneficial to move forward with that while making it at the same time amenable to the neighbors and many of other people who might have had an issue. First and foremost, we want to make sure that a surf school that we do move forward with is done in an orderly fashion, it's well organized, and it does not disturb any of our neighbors. So that will, of course, be put into any arrangement that we might have. Fran, I know you had made a comment that you thought the surf school should be administered or run by the village. And while we may not have the infrastructure to completely run or manage a surf school, what we can use is we can use we can use apps or new technology to record all revenues so that we know exactly what's coming and going into the village, so we can make this a cashless type transaction. So all transactions could be run through an app. The village on a daily or weekly basis could see exactly what's happening. We've also discussed various ways to make it more lesson focused, so that we can have beginner, intermediate, advanced lessons, and so that we do not have parking taken up from other village residents who'd like to use it. So that's another thing that we're in the process of discussing, so that parking is not taken away from anybody. So that's very important. And then in addition, we've spoken to some of the surf instructors, and sometimes people have said that the cost might be prohibitive to some members of the community. So that's a discussion item amongst the surf school members to make sure that if for whatever reason you're from a working family or you cannot afford that lesson price per hour, that you can actually work something out and that will be more cost appropriate for you. So there may be some members of the audience here tonight that might want to comment on that, but the key points here are a transparent surf program that is clean and well organized, that is monitored in complete transparency with the village, and a surf program that does not take away any beach parking from our residents. So those are the key things that we're looking for, and if we can find a partner to work with that can adhere to those key points, then we'd be happy to move forward with a surf school or a surf camp or lessons. And ideally, we'd like to get that going before August 1st so that we can kind of salvage the rest of the summer and can enjoy a surf school for our community, which generally welcomes it and generally enjoys it. So I can open that up to a discussion to any board members or to the public. I don't know which we want to do first.
Well, I wanted to ask one thing.
Yeah.
When you spoke to me about it, you mentioned one of the points, and you may have put it in there, I wasn't sure, the cost of it, of how much revenue that these private enterprises are generating and how much the fee, and it's been said by members of the community right up at this podium how they thought it was rather disproportionate, again, what they were raising and what the taxpayer was receiving in the form of the bid process. You mentioned something about a potential revenue sharing or something. I don't know, is that still on the table or that part of any discussion?
Absolutely. So that's something that I didn't mention. Thank you for bringing that up. One thing that I would like to propose that we work with in our partner is instead of a flat fee, that the village has some type of percentage revenue. because we've heard that, we have in the past, maybe our surf schools are really, we don't want to say taking advantage, but using our village resources. And again, it's not transparent. We don't know how much we are making. We've had people comment that maybe $2,500 is not enough. But this way, we want to make it so there's a win-win situation, that if our surf instructors are doing incredibly well, then the village will also do incredibly well in that process. So we were suggesting a number such as 10% of revenues. Again, since everything will be transparent, we'll have cashless transactions. The village will take that percentage of revenue. This way, it's a true partnership. And again, if our surf school or surf instructors are doing very well, that might lead, hopefully, to more revenue to the village, which we can then use for other functions. So that's a great point, Rich. Thank you for bringing that up. And that's another thing that I was hoping that we can put forth in this proposal. So I don't know if any other board members have
What are the
comments?
current times right now when they are giving lessons? What is the time frame?
Yep, technically, there's not supposed to be any lessons at this particular time.
Prior to that.
In the past,
It was 9 a.m. to 12, Monday to Friday, was supposed to be the hours.
I think it's something, Jesse, that if you're going to go start doing a proposal, that has to change a bit, because by 12 o'clock, most people are coming down to the village and beaches and residents. And I think, sometimes a little bit earlier, 8 o'clock to like 11, 11:30. I mean, winds tend to be better in the morning for surfing. People aren't as up and moving around so much at the beaches. It might be something to consider moving forward with this proposal that you're talking about.
Okay, good point. We can reach out to the surf instructors as well, find out if that would be appropriate. Again, the goal is not to crowd out our beaches for everyone else to enjoy. We want to, have this be a good dialogue between, obviously, the students, instructors, as well as the rest of our community. So we can obviously take that into account in the bidding process and potentially change the times. I'd be happy to hear from some of the instructors as well, just to make sure that that works well. But we, again, this is something that I think we, as a beach community, should have. Again, if we don't have a surf school in Southampton, I don't know, what we are. So for me, it's really important to have a surf school, even in a much more limited capacity. But I still want to make sure that we can have it. I'd love to again hear if we've got any members tonight, just to hear what their thoughts are on that and if that could be accommodated. Yeah, you can come on up.
Okay. Absolutely. Please do.
I'm Miles Brugalari at 147 Boylston Lane. This is Christopher Colbert. So we have a small surf program that we've been running. I've been teaching surfing and swimming for over 20 years. And we have a small program that we've been doing, I guess kind of under the radar. We didn't even know there was a permitting process before. And we have about 12 kids or so that we do we max it at 12. Usually there's like 6 or 8 or 10. It's more like a little club program, like the kids kind of join and they come when they want in the mornings, and we run from 9 to 12. And I just noticed like part of the problem with it, with the parking lots that you've been having with Flying Point School, I think is what everyone's specifically dancing around, right, is that Little Plains parking lot was clogged up last year. There was no parking and everyone's complaining. I feel like the idea of profit sharing would be much more appealing, because I looked at the bid that they put in, that Flying Point put in for this year, and $5,500. I think that was about what we profited last year. It was like, so we could never pay something like that. The only way that we could would be to take 40 kids a day, which is that's what's happening now. When they have to pay so much money, they need to take as many kids as they can. So yeah, we just have a small program, and I have like an outline. We talked to the town trustees earlier in this season just to find out if we were okay to run. And we had given them some information. I have a packet here of the same information that I gave to them. I'll give to you guys. It just kind of outlines our program and the safety features. And running such a small program, I don't know if you're going to do one surf camp, if this is the thing for you guys, because I don't think we want to have 40 kids on the beach a day. It's not safe. It's just more than I think we can handle. But we'd like to continue doing what we're doing, and we want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that we're not going to get in trouble.
Do you currently have a relationship with the town trustees or the town of Southampton?
I used to be a town employee, but we went to our first trustees meeting, in May, and just talked to them about it. But that's all. We've given them that same information, and we never heard back from them. So I don't know, what's happening now. So we'd heard this was happening tonight, so we came here. And,
excellent.
Great.
Yeah, and we do address parking in there, like we try to keep, the reason that we'd like to operate in the village is most of our clients are in the village, they ride bikes there, they're all kids, like under 15, so.
Excellent.
What are you guys' thoughts on the hours of 8 to 11?
We do 9 to 12 mostly because that's when most other camps are running in town, so parents, it's like easy, they want something for their kids to do during that time. I don't think that makes much of a difference. Like, it's true people starting to show up to the parking lots when they're leaving, but we don't have a lot of, we haven't had a lot of cars coming and going.
I believe location's more important than time. Last year we ran to the left of Old Town Beach, or in the middle of Wyandanch and Old Town, and we had all but good feedback, no negative complaints. We'd maybe see 8 to 10 beachgoers in the morning that stopped and conversed with us. That was essentially choosing a spot like Little Plains where it's incredibly populated is going to come problems.
Yeah, we've tried to stay away from the main break. There's always one sandbar that everyone wants to go to, and we try and stay away from that, so.
Do you know MBX Surf School?
No.
Main Beach, yes.
Oh, that's
Main Beach.
Oh, okay, yeah, yes. Okay.
So they have an interesting model, and I don't know the first thing about surfing other than it's really awesome that you surf.
Sounds
And
like
I
you
wish
need a
I could do it.
lesson.
Yes, I think I do. Definitely do. My uncle was a surfer in Hawaii, a really great guy. But I talked to them, and they were very interesting. They have a model whereby they have a brick and mortar place or they have a meeting place and they have a van that holds 12 people. So all the parents come not to the beach, but they drop their kids off at this place and then they bring them to the beach and then they're not, all these cars aren't there. They don't want helicopter parents because they don't want people lingering. And they spend the first hour wherever they are meeting up doing kind of lesson stuff and then they have their day of whatever, and they bring them back. But the point is, the other thing that's very interesting is they don't go to the same beach every day.
Yeah. That is, we actually have a text system where we can text the night before or in the morning and change the beaches if, conditions, and we're trying to stay away from crowds of people, basically. But the problem with transporting children is that you run into a lot of regulatory problems with the county. All of a sudden you start to operate as what the county and the state sees as a camp, and you have a whole line of restrictions that makes it very difficult to do anything.
They are under that jurisdiction.
I've run another camp in town, and I've had to deal with that before, and I will do anything I can to maintain a sports program and not a camp. So.
Because the rub is the cars at the beaches and the activity.
By staying small.
Right?
I mean, we said if we were going to have 60 kids, we'd rather have 4 locations, then it's just like, it's so hard to have that many kids and staying small. We've been able to kind of avoid that. We've always had, like I said, most of our kids bike there, and almost all of them walk home, even on the beach. Some of them are members of the beach clubs in the village, and they'll just walk straight to the beach clubs. So, I mean, that's how we've approached it. We feel like it's a pretty good system so far. I think there's been 0 complaints about us, and no one's ever said anything to us about it. So, and I've been doing this a long time, so I think we've kind of nailed it. But I don't know how that fits into the program that you guys are looking to build.
The only other comment I'll make is not everybody can afford $600 or $800 a week, and it would be really nice if you could spread it around a little bit to people who
We are well
don't have
below the price. We're actually the lowest priced people. We just found this out too because we read those articles about the surf camps not getting their permits, and I learned a lot from that. I was like, that's $190. So yeah, I mean, right now we charge, I think we're $650 a week, which is in line or below what most other camps are doing. Our insurance rates are pretty high, and our salaries are extremely high because anyone that you have teach with you, surfers are not cheap. To spend 3 hours in the water, is difficult to do, and not many people can do it. So, we're paying. I think we've been paying we have a couple friends help us, and we pay them above or at least equal to what our competitors are doing, and we're charging less. So we're not printing money here. We both have other jobs. It's just kind of something that we like to do, and have been doing it for a while and like to continue doing it.
And we're also trying to find the most qualified and experienced people to work with us to create.
Yeah, we have all certified lifeguards, and it's.
Our employees are all CPR certified, lifeguard certified, and have worked for the town for at least 5 years.
So yeah, it's all in that packet there. But our safety plan is in there, which is modeled after, state-required safety plan. It's not exactly to the T, we don't need all of those things, but it's kind of modeled after that, after a camp safety plan would be. There wasn't many of those before.
Your advantage for all these years is that, as you stated, you were under the radar.
Yes.
Coming here, you just jumped above it.
I know. I'm trying to do it right. I had no idea there was even a permitting process here. I've just been doing what I've been doing for so long, and I guess they started asking for permits, 7 years ago or something like that, and, I just found all this out. So I've just kind of been doing what I've been doing. But, all right, I guess that's it for me. So,
I got one other question.
Yeah.
I think Trustee Allen does. So I know Trustee Allen brought up the price tag of that. I know you're below market, but if someone came to you and said, I go to Southampton Middle School and I just can't.
Oh, yeah, we do that all the time.
How do you typically do? What do you do in that situation?
If we have time for it, we come up with with something that we can do for them. We charge them less, basically. I mean, that's it. I did a lesson today for $40. It's like it just happens sometimes. I have a lot of people in that situation.
Really do a case-by-case basis. When it
I don't like to make a big thing about that because we'll go broke. But yeah, we've let kids come for free a few times too. That like family friends and stuff that we've just let go.
The enjoyment of taking kids surfing also holds some weight with us.
Right.
Yeah, it's difficult for us if we're going to cap it at 12 kids, and we like in a busy week in August, it's hard for us to do. But this time in July, we're happy to have more kids, so it's that hasn't been a problem. We haven't had too many people request that before, but there have been a few.
I just want to make sure that there's plenty of people that come to Southampton Village, especially over the summer, that could easily afford to pay this. But for the people that can, I just want to make sure they feel that they're included as well. And they can approach you and say, "Listen, this is my situation." Could you
and we
really
take a lot of kids out. And I was just telling somebody this morning that I don't know how many lessons I've just not charged for this year. It happens. But like I said, we're not trying to make a killing here. We're just trying to make ends meet with it and, buy our equipment and, pay some friends and make a few bucks at it. So,
thank you guys for your
any more
time.
questions? Yeah.
I think that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Chris.
So what are you thinking, Mayor, and the council as well, are we looking to then go at a rebid? So we reinstitute, are we going to have to interview, choose? How are you thinking we're going to go about this?
That's a good question. I think that maybe is more of a Wayne or Russell question as far as how we can make this process and streamline it so we
Can
can
we
get it
revenue
going.
share? Is that viable? Is that legal? Can we do that?
It all depends on the form of the agreement and what the parties agree. Yes, you could.
Is a public hearing required for that, or can we just make a resolution?
Well, the question we'll come back to is the bidding process, if you need to go that way or not.
If that's our choice, though.
Where are we allowing this business to occur? What's officially the site? What is it? Is it on a public beach?
First of all, everybody, this is my role, the attorney, to come back and tell you what the code says. The code actually, for everybody should know, gentlemen, that commercial activities are prohibited at our beaches. It's illegal to sell, peddle, solicit, or carry on or engage in or promote any manner whatsoever, whether directly or indirectly, any business activity or advertising program, promotional scheme, or any commercial enterprise. And the first exception is the franchise at Cooper's Beach, run by the village. However, in 2013, the village board amended the code, that prohibition, and states the above prohibition shall not apply to giving ocean swimming lessons or ocean surfboarding lessons by a surf school operated pursuant to a license issued by the village board of trustees. And then there's a whole host of requirements and regulations that this board can impose in issuing such license. So that's what this board has in the past considered, asked for proposals, and reviewed those. But essentially what you're issuing is a license that is subject to, at least as a minimum, the restrictions that you set forth in the code. But many of those also are broad enough that this board, to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the village and other matters, is that you can impose reasonable restrictions, including the operations, the days of operations, the number of people, the locations. all the things that you've been discussing with all the parties so far. So,
Are we, when you're looking, Jesse, are you looking to just have one partner? And that will be a specific school that will be, for Southampton Village? Or are you looking for multiple so that a larger school can be there? Or, just a smaller, or how many would there be, how many would you allow under your proposal?
That's a good question. That's also why I wanted to put it up for discussion, because I think maybe I came into this meeting with a preconceived notion of what it should be, but after listening to the gentleman here, maybe we could accommodate more. Again, I would put that in the hands of our village attorney and administrator to determine what works best, and obviously work with the team here to figure that out. But open to a variety of different outcomes if it's kept to our description of not being overbearing and being within those hours at our structure.
So one of the issues that, I would have to work through with Wayne is that we did go out formally. So we still have two technically open proposals of people who met the criteria and the time frame in which they needed to submit proposals. So arguably, and again, I would defer to Wayne, those two are open proposals that were properly submitted in a timely fashion that the village could still be in negotiation with to come to terms with. If we were to consider vendors outside of those who did, what are our requirements in order to satisfy any legal requirements that we have?
So first of all, the statute again is you're issuing a license, and it doesn't prohibit you. It just says any party, a surf school. It doesn't say it's limited to one. It could be several. You could consider all of them. I think this board was trying to take a position. You're not required to necessarily go out to bid or an RFP or otherwise. You did that with certain minimum specifications. You're not obligated to accept any one of those if you feel it doesn't meet the requirements that this board is looking for under your statute and issuing a license. So I think that was the position that the previous board, and I think this board has, if you haven't looked at what was submitted or otherwise, would all agree there's certain aspects of that aren't meeting your expectations. So you could revisit all of those. I think the point is what the village administrator is indicating is you have those two proposals, you have two entities that do want to discuss and continue to discuss. It sounds like you have a third one now as well.
Do we have any information on what the town does?
I don't think the
town doesn't hold any.
The town actually has programs that are sponsored by the town, and it's a different program entirely. They either have their own employees or they have hire contractors basically to entertain their lessons or otherwise.
So they give, for the sake of argument, sailing lessons, and so they contract with a sail instructor and an agreed-upon fee that the sail instructor charges, and the town takes in the revenue and pays the instructor that fee per lesson.
And the town allows, do we know what the town allows in terms of commercial activity on their properties?
I don't believe they allow it.
They don't allow commercial activity as well. Now, some municipalities, I worked for Riverhead Town, oversaw their Parks and Recreation Department. They gave swim lessons, but they hired swim instructors, and they move from beach to beach and give swim instructions. So various municipalities have different programs.
All right. Anything else, or should we move to?
It just sounds like what we're hearing when we talk about the town. They have a program. Now, do you want to start looking into getting a program established here? We do have an ocean rescue at our fingertips. It's something that we model something that's going to really work with the village. It's a benefit to everybody. However, at the time being, it sounds like you want to get something going by August 1st. So we need to talk about that, come up with some ideas. and just make sure that it's sensible and that it is a place where we make sure the residents aren't going to be affected by it. And that's going to be the really part that we got to really sit down and look at. Because I agree, I think it's something that should be offered. My family have used it before. It's been fun. It sounds like the gentleman in the back look like they have a lot of fun. They talk about a lot about the youth, and it's important. We're surrounded by water. And you want to have these kids being really at a point where they feel comfortable, and that's important. So we have to really sit down and put our heads together and have some input from some of the community members that do know this stuff.
We got one right here waiting to
go ahead.
Chomping at the bit, Fran. Go on.
They call me Chopper.
Sorry, Fran.
That's all right, Fran. I'm Chesky again. These two gentlemen did mention that they were volunteer Southampton Village Ocean Rescue lifeguards, as I am a member of the Southampton Village Ocean Rescue and took a rigorous CPR course last week, that 5 hours. I was like, but I'm definitely in favor of having a surf school, but done the right way. These two gentlemen I know, and I think they can do a really good job. And as volunteers in the ocean rescue team in the village, I think maybe you guys can get together maybe later on during the week and discuss things. And I'm all for these guys. These guys are great. So.
What about you, Franny?
I'm too busy, Wayne. I'm too old.
Wayne, you could be the surfboard, Fran. You just ride on.
I have my 12-footer out front, so I could fit like 2 or 3 years on that.
But aside from, and again, I'm familiar with these gentlemen too, so you like them and what they, but how they run their program is really what you like about it.
Yes.
How they,
and I do
once
like
under the radar,
because
no
they are
water.
definitely Southampton Village Ocean Rescue. They're volunteers and they're good guys.
I think
And
the
they
thing
did the
that
right thing.
I think one of the things that we discussed and we're discussing going forward is that the focus is on surfing and lessons and less about camp and
that's what's really and that's what happened over the years. As the mayor pointed out, he started by saying, we had it. There's always been around. We know it's there. It's been there. There's a necessity for it. You live in an ocean community. You should learn how to navigate in the ocean.
Exactly. It's just the last surf school that was here was just.
But there were many different things. Again, there's the surf school, the volume of it, the location of it, the money that was being earned by them, and then the sacrifice to the taxpayer. So many things got to the point where the previous mayor, said, okay, we'll take a break for now and see where we are. So, and the good news about that is a lot of feedback from people like yourselves have come up and approached the new board members and the mayor and existing board members, saying, okay, there is a need for it. Let's just find a good way to do it.
I'm all in favor.
And you've been very vocal through the years, so that's why the fact you're up here saying you want a surf school of some sort.
Yes.
Is
and I'm vouching for these two guys that they.
But you can't really do that. But you're vouching for the
But
system.
I'm vouching for these two guys. I'm putting myself out there.
Well,
as me.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, Fran.
All right, thanks.
Guys, thank you also for stepping up and doing this, because if you didn't come here tonight, we wouldn't have actually had that foundation to get going. So thank you.
I may, if I can come back up, I might have a little.
Yeah, please do. Come up to the mic.
Because I talked to the town for a while. I talked to the town for a while. Still Miles Brugel area, 147 Towson.
There you go.
I did talk to the town trustees for a while, and they right now, as far as they say, they don't have a permitting process at all for surf schools. They don't really have a definition for surf schools. As far as running businesses on the beach, they told me that you just can't do any transactions. So like, they kind of felt like as long as we weren't taking money or running credit cards on the beach or in the parking lots, then that was not in violation of their codes. So
we've taken that same stance in the past.
Okay, yeah, that was what
that's kind of what led up to actually licensing a surf school, because it was happening. But yeah, as long as you don't transact.
Yeah, and I also just I don't think that, like I was saying before, that I don't think that our small program is equipped to take all the demand for surf lessons in Southampton Village. And what was the next thing I was going with this? Yeah, I just don't think that we, like, you know, as we stand now, I don't think we like have the ability to do that. But I don't know where I was going with this. Sorry.
So you're suggesting that there be more than one
I
operation?
do think so. Yeah, I think there would need to be multiple options, but I also think that like, if you put all the kids who want to have surf lessons in this town at one beach, you're going to have a problem no matter what. I mean, it just cannot all be in one location at one beach. There's too many people who want to do it.
So the main beach has been in operation for almost 30 years. They have a great reputation. Nobody seems to complain about them. They don't commandeer the beaches. They have a pick up and take, back.
Yeah.
And they don't go to the same beach all the time. So
Yeah.
the people in the community say this is added value, but they also go all the way from Montauk all the way to Waynescott.
Yeah.
So they're really East Hampton. So
Yeah.
they really have a long stretch. We don't have that stretch. So my only concern would be, just out loud on the record, I wouldn't want to see tons of surf schools. I really wouldn't.
Yeah.
But again, that's for the community to come and tell us, but I'd like to see quality surf schools and to do it the right way, which it sounds like you're doing that. So, but I do have one question for you. My kids learned how to swim from Kurt Billings. Talk about a fantastic person. How are kids learning how to swim these days?
I teach a lot of swim lessons. So yeah, in pools and in the ocean. Swimming is a little different here because everyone has backyard pools. So, nationally, like I think kids learn how to swim around 5. Here it's like 3, 2.5, 3. So yeah, I teach a lot of swim lessons. I teach a lot of ocean lessons. I've really, I've been teaching surfing for 22 years or something, but until recently, most of my time was spent teaching swimming, and a lot of those kids that I taught to swim and brought in the ocean are now, learning how to surf. And some of them are in college and coming back and surfing. But yeah, there's a number of swim instructors that I work with also that are teaching around here. It's just and that's one of the visions that we had when we started our little surf program was that we were going to do more ocean swimming with them and junior lifeguarding. We ended up, the kids really just want to surf every day. And some days it's too big or it's too windy or the conditions aren't right and we just end up swimming. But yeah, we thought we'd be doing more of that, but the kids just want to go surf every day. So
The reason why I ask is we never had a pool. And I'm not a good instructor, especially being the mom, but it would be great to explore swimming, I think. If we're going to offer surfing, surfing, we should offer
Volunteer Ocean
swimming.
Rescue has been talking about doing that, running at least a junior lifeguard program, and they're just having trouble, getting everyone together and getting the organization together right now and getting a communication system and getting all that going. But that is something that's come up many times, is running a junior life program in the village. And the town has 2 of them. They fill up, immediately. If you don't call in the first hour when they start taking kids for it, you're not getting in. So, yeah, it's something that we've talked about already, is doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly, on another note, when my father was trustee, and he was in charge of the beaches, he would make the lifeguards go down at 8 o'clock and give free lessons to the kids who came down, so from 8 to 9. So if I mention that to the lifeguards at Cooper's, I'm sure they'll look at me and say, get him out of here.
Guess what? That's a great idea. If I've heard a great idea, if we could combine that and surf school, because it's a community that everybody should enjoy, and not everybody has a pool. And, I just think that would be, plus people who learn how to swim have better opportunities for jobs later on the beach. So they can't do that if they don't know how to swim. Right.
Okay, excellent.
Hello, trustees and new mayor. Just wanted to touch base. I started surfing when I was 12 years old at Little Plains Beach, Paul Bolo. And the difference between surfing, sailing, swimming is surfing is concentrated to a specific area, and specifically in Southampton Village, it's concentrated to wherever the sandbar is, which some of you may be familiar with. So there's a limited amount of space. There's an inherent risk when someone is pushed into a wave. And within the surfing community, there's something called the $20, $40 push. And that's one of the better waves that comes along throughout a set or series of waves that's separated by time and seconds. and children are pushed into waves instead of building up necessary strength within their shoulders and arms to naturally paddle on their own, under their own power in order to get into a wave. So I'm not speaking against surf schools at all. I know all the gentlemen that spoke this evening. I've surfed with them. I think it's really important to look at the safety element of it and make sure that you limit the numbers so that you have a concentrated resource of where waves occur as those sandbars shift and change, and a concentrated amount of time where there's a swell large enough, the wind direction's correct. So there's a lot of elements there, so I think that it should be looked at in the capacity that you recognize that it's a limited area in which you can surf as opposed to sailing or other recreational activities. So thank you for taking the time to listen.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you, Paul.
Bye.
So unless anyone else would like to come forward, the next discussion item is the storefront art program. We heard about that a bit earlier from Tom and Amy from the Southampton Art Center. And this just came up due to the fact that there's a large number of vacant storefronts on Jobs Lane, as well as on Windmill Lane and a few other streets in our community. And we approached the Art Center. I know Trustee Allen and I have had conversations also with Simone Levinson, who's the chairperson. I know Mark and Andrew have spoken with her as well. And they were very gracious in offering up their ability to curate a art exhibit where anyone who is visiting us in Southampton can essentially stroll down our streets. They'll be provided some type of program. It could also be on your phone, and you could essentially weave in and out of our streets and see an art program. This also helps us address the fact that we do still have some vacant storefronts. We'll be reaching out to those landlords just to find out exactly what's going on. I've had a conversation with one of those landlords. And we want to find out, whether they're done intentionally or whether it's done just because there's no market for real estate in Southampton Village, which I personally find hard to believe. But with that being said, we want to provide this as an option, and we're hoping that the landlords will work with us and essentially open their door for the Southampton Art Center for this, curated art exhibit. So I know the Art Center is willing to work hard on that, and so I just wanted to announce that that's going on, address any comments from the group here tonight, for any suggestions or other commentary, or also to the board. But I think this could be a great first start to addressing the situation that we have, and provide a very easy option for our landlords to essentially either reach out to the Art Center or the Art Center will reach out to them. We'll make it as easy as possible, so essentially, there are no excuses for, windows. The other thing I would suggest is that Julie has actually worked very hard, and this was also actually Trustee Parrish's idea at the beginning, to create a new logo for the Village Business District. And we do have that logo, so we could also give some of these storefronts the opportunity to maybe put that white backdrop in their window, which it says, eat, shop, local. And that's just something that will make our Village Business District just look a little nicer, rather than having a massive, for rent sign in the window 12 months out of the year. So just wanted to put that forward. Happy to discuss it, happy to just let that sit, but just another thing that I think just take a small step forward in addressing this issue. Okay, Greg, come on up.
Gregory Delia, summer resident. This is a great idea, but in Palm Beach on Worth Avenue, an empty store is required to have paper. I brought this up at the debate at the Art Center. They're required to have paper. The paper on it has old sketches of Worth Avenue from the 40s and 50s. It's not cheap, but it's done, and at least it's uniform. Your idea of putting the logo in the background is a great idea. You also have stores that are still vacant on Main Street. You've said Windmill Lane and Jobs Lane, but we have it on Main Street. I brought it up in my column this week. It's my lead about that we're in the middle of July, and it's really disappointing. The idea of shopping locally, I think, is great. The idea of the curated art show is a great idea. But we're also dealing with one particular person right now. Evelyn came up and spoke about this at the beginning. The courtyard, this is done intentionally. I've been told this. That has been done intentionally as a giant you-know-what to this village because they didn't get what they wanted. Those people aren't going to play. So your idea is great, but I think that you need to make it, you need to change the law here that it's a requirement that you can't leave a vacant store. Don't ask, you want to ask nicely, I get that, but we need to change this so that there's uniformity in how these stores look if they are vacant. All right, rather than just suggest I like the curated art show, it's a different look, it's great. But they have got to be required to do it, and that's going to require you guys to change the code in this village. You know, you've got to require. They do it in Palm Beach, and it's a much cleaner look. And Palm Beach is going through the same retail issue that we are going through. They had a lot of empty stores. A major development went in another part of the island, and a lot of stores left Worth Avenue because of the incentives to move to the new location. So Worth Avenue saw it. There were empty stores. But you walked by and you saw, like the picture behind you, it was something that was there, and it wasn't bad. But you can't just suggest it. I think you really need to, at this point, make this mandatory. Because what's going on at Job's Lane, in the middle of where the old courtyard is a disgrace. And it's just, there's nothing you can do about it based on our current codes here and our laws. So it needs to go one step further than just suggesting. I think it's great that the Art Center is getting involved and that more people are doing this, but you've got to go further than that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My response to that is we want to give the landlords an opportunity to address it. In fact, actually, Simone Levinson, the chairperson of the Art Center, said that if the artwork sells, they'll give them a percentage of that sale so they can make money on it too. So we want to give them an opportunity first. If they come back to us and say no, then there's a problem. Because we've at our own expense have tried to help. And if they won't take that
okay, so
olive
you're
branch,
prepared to go to another next step.
let's get to the first step first. The hope is that everyone will accept. But if they don't, then there'll be a different discussion.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Thank you.
Maybe I'll just make one comment. So, Jeff Broadley, 166 Halsey Street. As you know, I serve on the ARB, and sometimes we're confronted with situations with homeowners allow their properties to become derelict in the hopes of applying for some hardship. I don't know, Wayne, if that would apply to the situation here in the courtyard, but there may be remedies available to the village. I don't know from a legal perspective, but that may be worth checking out. You can't allow a property to fall into disrepair. And then you surely can't do that to create a hardship that you then wish to take advantage of. So can you, maybe something you want to share with these guys?
Thank you. Any other comments, or if not, I guess we can move to comments from board members. Trustee Yastrzemski.
I just want to thank all the departments for a successful 4th of July parade, from our first responders, our volunteers, our police department and public safety, all the way down to DPW, who set it up, clean it up, and get it back to normal very quickly. So, and I thank all the participants who attended it and kept it safe and enjoyable for all. And I guess the last meeting, I said a farewell to a couple people on our board, so I will use this opportunity to welcome a few new people to our board. Mayor Jesse.
Thank you.
Trustee Mark. Mr. Andrew. Welcome to the board. Refreshing change already tonight, jumping into some good topics with some good ideas and some good input, which is what I believe a lot of people showed up tonight expecting to hear from you guys. So I don't think you're disappointed. I think you pretty much delivered what you said you were going to do as far as getting involved and getting your hands dirty quickly. So I commend you guys and welcome aboard to the village.
Thank you, Rich. And now we have Trustee Allen.
Thank you. So it's been a good week. We had a great 4th of July parade. I got to meet some of the 40 firemen from Dublin, and that was an experience.
Yes. Yes, they had, yes, and thank you to our Southampton Fire Department for hosting that, because they had an incredible experience.
And our U.S. women's soccer team won, yay! So that's good. And our League of Women Voters celebrated their 100th year in the celebration, in the parade, which was really terrific. We also have some other good news in that we had a few stores in the pipeline, so there's going to be one less empty storefront on Job's Lane. It was a jewelry store that went in, I think, about 10 days ago. And then we have a new restaurant coming in called the Tackle Box, where the old Little Reds was. So they've been working with the building department, and they finally got it squared away. They should be there in about 2 weeks. And we have a bank looking for space. So at least people are coming. And our wonderful bookstore just opened up they were doing so well here that they opened up a store in Sag Harbor. So that's the news that's I have.
Good news.
Oh, the only other thing is I was going to say, we have Edwina Von Gall presenting next Board of Trustee meeting, which is the 23rd, I believe. And she leads a company, an organization, nonprofit organization called Perfect Earth Project. She's a leading authority on how you can create gardens that benefit the environment and the use of pesticides and fertilizers and that impact on our environment. And I encourage every single person, I'm hoping you tell all your friends who live anywhere near any of the water bodies, whether it's Lake Agawam or Hetty Creek or Old Town Pond, to come and listen to what she has to say. She's really terrific and well regarded. So.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Trustee Parrish.
Thank you. It was a fun week in Southampton Village. It was a monstrous week in a lot of ways, with a lot of people out here. Business was moving really well. I worked very hard, and it was also really interesting to come down and be really our second meeting. This is really our first meeting with a group that's coming in with issues, and so I'm looking forward to working with the board members, Councilor Russell, and I got to walk in the parade. That was a lot of fun. My son joined me halfway through with Jesse. It was really nice to be on the street watching people enjoy themselves. I do want to do one thing. I want to continue a tradition from Mr. Hattrick. I have a joke here. And the joke is really good, and it sort of fits really what's going on right now in my life, so I'm going to make it quick. Frank and Helen were discussing what they thought their son would be when he grows up. I have an idea, said Frank. I'll put a $20 bill, a bottle of bourbon, and a Bible on the coffee table. If he takes the money, he will be a banker. If he takes the bourbon, he will be a drunk. And if he takes the Bible, he'll be a preacher. So Frank and Helen hide just before their son comes in the door and watch from where they are hiding. Boy walks over to the coffee table. He picks up the $20 bill, looks at it, then sets it down. He picks up the bottle of bourbon, uncorks it, sniffs it, then sets it down. He picks up the Bible, leafs through it, and sets it down. Then the boy takes the money and stuffs it in his pocket, grabs the bourbon, and walks off with the Bible under his arm. Well, how do you like that? Frank says. He's going to be a politician.
Wonderful entry.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, all good. Yeah.
Little safer than Bill used to.
Yes. All right, thank you, Trustee Parrish. We've been thinking about ways of getting more people to attend our meetings, so I think now we have a good start. All right, so Trustee Polaro.
I think that's a hard one to follow. So, I thank everyone for coming out this evening, and I'll keep it brief.
All right. One thing that Trustee Parrish did not mention, which is really important and we're really proud of, is that the two of us met with Nick Palumbo and Ocean Rescue Chief Jim Arnold. And that was a great meeting that we had, and they had expressed that they're interested in getting involved with our village in a secondary and also just a helpful way, understanding the chain of command. And so we did speak with Chief Cummings here tonight, and we're hoping to move that forward. We think that will be a great start. Again, limited way, secondary, but again, there to help our community. So we're going to work on this, and hopefully we can move that forward. So we just wanted to thank Nick and Jim, as well as Chief Cummings, for having that discussion with us. So, and Mark, thank you for helping arrange that meeting. So that was great. And another couple other things. I also just wanted to thank Trustee Allen, Trustee Yastrzemski, Mayor Irving, Nancy McGann, and Bill Hattrick, because Gary Gillespie came up earlier tonight to talk about a grant for drainage. And while it was kind of quiet and there was a lot going on in this meeting, that's big. It's big because we typically have a drain that goes right into the ocean, and that water actually then gets sent out to the ocean. It's not good. But obviously with drainage, if that allows us to close up the drain that we have, it's not only great for the environment, it's just great for the beaches. And so this is a big step forward. And so I just wanted to thank the members that are here today, as well as the prior administration for the help there, because that could not be better news. So I'm really thrilled to hear that. Also, regarding Lake Agawam, I did want to report that we had a meeting, and there'll be 2 new people stepping up to be co-presidents of the Lake Agawam Conservation Group. And one thing that they said they're willing to do is that they're willing to foot the bill to hire an executive director whose job it is when he or she wakes up in the morning and goes to bed at night is to think about Lake Agawam. And that is similar to the model that we have in East Hampton through the Friends of Georgia Pond. So that is just a great update. We had Dr. Gobler at that meeting. We had another environmental management firm at that meeting. Mm-hmm. So that was just a great first step, and we're all going to work together to help make that happen. We also had a meeting with Paul Travis, chairperson of the Planning Commission. We discussed, again, these are future projects. They're not going to happen overnight, but we discussed having the Planning Commission look into improving our parking situation. Also, looking into permeable paving, which is also really good for the environment. Joe McLaughlin, I don't know if he's still here, had mentioned that in one of our debates a month back, which I thought was a great idea. We also looked into, we have a H2M coming back to update us on any septic or water treatment. And we've got a number of other great things going on with the Planning Commission. So I would encourage everyone to attend those meetings too, which are the first Thursday of every month. And just a few other things to announce. The Art Center, who we obviously love, is having a National Geographic photo exhibition, which will continue on. So I would encourage everyone to attend. And we also just don't want to forget about the Cultural Center, who has a concert next Wednesday on July 17th. So Sturdy Souls will be performing at Cooper's Beach. And there is just a number of other great events that you can find just by coming into Village Hall, looking at our boards, also on front of Village Hall on Main Street. So I'm really excited to work with the group here today. There's a lot to do, but I think this first meeting is just indicative of how excited we are just to dig in, all work together. And I just wanted to thank everyone here, thank everyone for attending, and I think this is a great start in the right direction for a successful summer and a successful year. So thank you, everybody. So the meeting is actually not over. We do have a second public comment for anyone who is interested in coming forward. Thank you for waiting patiently.
My name is Gerald Edwards, and I'm at 53 Pulaski Street. Okay, my mother's here, Mrs. Helen Arrington. We're the Arrington family, okay? We've been in Southampton for what, over 100 years or something like that? And we did domestic work for some of the big families, the Corwiths, the Halseys, my great-grandmother, your grandmother did work before Spanish people. Was us who did it. We're obsolete now, but this is what it is. There was a problem with our property. Somebody tried to steal it. Okay, they approached a title searcher had approached me. I got a phone call one day when in my East Harlem apartment, and he wanted me to sell he wanted my mother, she's the heir, so he wanted her to sell her right to him, and he got one of the heirs to sell the rights for about $11,000. Okay, now we know that that property is worth a lot of money. $11,000 is no money to be selling it for. Okay? So what happened is we sued the gentleman, and we took him to court, and the court wants to throw the case out. Okay, because we're not pursuing the case and prosecuting it because it's expensive to sue somebody. It's very expensive to sue somebody. What I'm asking, what I came here to ask is, I want to work with Chief Cummings to investigate what happened. And what happened? I went to Southampton Intermediate School with a Nick Parrish. That is your brother. That is your brother. How old is he now? I'm 52. So that was about 40 years ago. Okay. All right. All right. So I'm telling him my age, right? But the thing is, this is a bad thing, and it's also other families that this has happened to by the same person. There's another lawyer in Sag Harbor, and she has the same defendants. Okay, this guy goes around. I was even told he went to crack houses where he would look for the heir and bring allegedly and brought a bag of cash, and the person signed over their rights. Okay, so I'm not confident with the state, with the county, and people know what's going on. Miss Burns, even Miss Burns knows, and the tax lady, and she gave me there's two other families that they sold their interest to, and I know that Mr. Lamerson had came over to see Miss Burns and had pulled all the documentation. So if you need to speak to him about it, he's probably familiar with it.
We're kind of at 3 minutes, but if you've been working with Ms. Burns and you have some things that you want to review,
yes,
it'd probably be easier to do it in the office. If you could bring in things, if there's something criminal going on, certainly we can.
I believe there is.
We could turn that over to the police department.
We don't know.
Right.
We can't say.
Right.
We just brought it to your attention because we kind of at a stalemate, and we can't say because any lawyers like your lawyer here is representing the lawyers in the Southampton Village. You can't say we just brought it to your attention because we know. I would say allegedly there are other families affected. Some people didn't get a lawyer, didn't try to fight, so we don't know what the outcome is of that. So we can't say, I didn't want this to be public. I just wanted to talk to you as trustees. I hope you keep it until we find out legitimately, because we have a lawyer dealing with it. We do.
What's the address?
53 Pulaski Street.
But I would say that right now it's a stalemate because the judge, the state did put it on hold. They didn't throw it out. They put it on hold.
Lack of prosecution?
Until we, find out. Of course, the lawyer would tell you that we have to, finish it. But it's expensive. But we know that
I spent a lot of money on legal fees.
There's other families that this is happening when it's coming after allegedly coming and say, okay, you sign this, we take over this property. I know, and I'll use this one scenario. In Brooklyn a couple of weeks ago, and there was other cases too, the guy was on the news, Channel 4. He was under influence, allegedly by the family. He signed the paper And of course, they didn't know, the family didn't know, and they took over the brownstone. Of course, they probably worked it out. It was on the TV for about 5-10 minutes. But this is something similar to that. It's not, you can't, I just think the trustees, and I think the South Hampton Village really, it should think about it and see if it's happening to other people. But right now we have one.
It's just sad that
It's
that just
sad.
happened
It's
to,
sad.
because 4 of the brothers of her father and the other 3 brothers were World War II veterans.
Yeah, all of it.
Okay, and Uncle Matt, the old village building inspector that just retired, Mr. Forster, he knew my uncle Carlton, who cleaned the school. He had cleaned the school when he was a little boy. When Forster was a little boy, he was cleaning the food. He used to clean the school, and Mr. Forster told me he would play tricks on my uncle.
But on the whole, we just want to have you have some knowledge of it. I know you're a new Mr. Warren, Mr. Parrish. I knew your father when I used to go to Sarasota with my
Aunt Clara used to take us to Sarasota.
And I knew your grandmother when she started.
We didn't go today though. We went to Sean's place.
Grandmother, because I was a little girl, I used to go all the time to Sarasota. I knew your father, Mr. Parrish, Paul Parrish, right? Yeah, I knew him too. So I'm just saying we should look into if they're allegedly, I can't really want to publicly with this, I just go to you as the trustees to see if you know of this, because this is serious.
Stop in and bring paperwork in, and we'll sit
That's
down with
it.
Ms. Burns, okay?
That's it.
All right, thank you.
That's
All right.
it.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, you got it.
Thank you. Please do come into Village Hall, and obviously, you've probably already done it, but reach out to the police as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I did speak to Mr. Lamberson
But
about
we don't
it.
want to criminalize the people. You know, we want to see.
All we want to do is we want to go quietly,
And
nice.
take
You know what I'm
that
saying? Because
person out.
everybody's passed
No,
away.
it's Arrington,
And it's heirs property. You know the intestate laws of New York State, right? So it falls to the next group of heirs, which my mother is a group member of. So all I want to do is, get rid of the property and equitably distribute the proceeds to all the family members.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
You got it.
Thank you.
And congratulations to all the new people and the trustees.
Thank you.
Okay, second public comment, Jeff Broadleib. As a reminder, we're keeping everything to 3 minutes for public comment.
That's okay. It'll be under 3 minutes for sure. Anyway, Jeff Broadleib, 166 Halsey Street. Sorry, guys, if you don't mind.
It's fine.
So anyway, congratulations to everybody. 3 things on my plate. Some insignificant, some not. 1, leaf blowers and the need for enforcement. Unauthorized construction and the need for an additional building inspector. And 3, village planning and the need to expedite work in progress. On leaf blowers, many folks follow them, but over the last couple of weeks driving around, I see, whether it be on small properties or large properties, various landscapers totally ignoring it. I want to pat on the back the folks that are using the battery operated, but I don't. Anyway, it seems to me that there's a need for perhaps greater publicity about the new law and what citizens are supposed to do in terms of reporting. I know Angel is out there doing inspections and will respond when called upon. He could probably use some help, and maybe you can find somebody to employ, and maybe for God's sake, you'll pay them the state minimum wage and not hide behind the municipal advantage. And I don't cast any aspersions on that, but what's right is right, and minimum wages should be applied. Post the violations and compliment those who do well. Moving on to something a little bit more serious, unauthorized construction. Curtis Highsmith and I have seen a number of amendments to plans that were previously approved. It's irksome, it's not right, It's not fair. Chris Talbot and the building department, the two inspectors are doing a great job, but they also could use some help. There are lots of projects, new projects that renovations, and they're just two folks that they can only do so much, and unfortunately, some people take advantage of that. And oops, there you have something that we spent a lot of hard work approving, and then lo and behold, something else comes in. And so to the extent that as you do your budgeting, you might think about expanding that department. The third thing, which is more, I think, important, is that of expediting the work done over the last 20 years on creating a master plan. I don't know if you folks are familiar with this or have read the master plan. In fact, it wasn't until Kimberly a couple years ago, when she came on the board, gave me her tatted copy. There's a lot of stuff in here that shows what the village intended to do 20 years ago, and I'm sorry to say that it's done scant little against that document. There was an article in here of 2008 reporting about the slow but steady progress. That's 10 years ago. So 20 years ago, slow progress 10 years ago, and in the last 2 years, the Planning Commission has done yeoman's work in terms of putting forward plans of actions. I know they submitted to the administration. Thank you. And Kimberly was very involved on that. There's a lot of work that's been done. She's a wonderful resource, and the Planning Commission has done a ton of work that I think you should look at. And I think your election is indicative of the village's wish to expedite change. And now's an opportunity not to be wasted. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, I just want to comment. Thank you to you and to Curtis. All the work you spend voluntarily on the ARB. I know it's hours and hours, and that's just you at the meeting. I know all the hours you spend on all these other areas. But the comprehensive plan is up on our website. Julie put up all of our plans. Wayne went back into the basement and figured out what was resolutions, and he had to find that documentation. It was, and I think we have now 9 or 10 documents where there was this incredible work done years ago, and it's now there.
And plus, we did an update to the Village Business District 5 years ago, so there has been a lot of...
And Curtis has been on board, 12, 13 years, Curtis? 14. So, I mean, that's a resource that should be tapped. I mean, he could probably spit off a dozen things that could be done to improve the process, the code, the policy, the process, and the procedures. All of those things need to be looked at. My understanding was the Planning Commission was, in fact, looking at that. I know they wanted to bring in some consultants and the like. I don't know where that stands now. I'm a little concerned that either be in the transition or stuff that may be going on, that it's getting lost somewhere in there, and I really think it's something you should address, because you don't want somebody to come back here 5 years ago and say, what happened to that master plan? What happened to the open space that 20 years ago was to be open space and now is 80 condominiums? So, okay.
Thank you.
I would love to make a motion that we say we're going to redo our comprehensive master plan because the world has changed so significantly, and I know we can't, but at the next meeting, I would like to do that because we really have to revisit that.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
First of all, congratulations to each of you on a successful campaign, and I welcome you to the village and to the work in putting your hand to the plow because things need to be done. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't put the other hat on, and I'm the executive director of the Town of Southampton Housing Authority. As the executive director over the last 5 years, Russell will contest to that, we've built 20 homes, single-family homes, first-time home buyers, 3 here in Southampton Village alone. We're working on 66 units of housing now, 2 of which have wastewater treatment plants. So we're proficient in the growth and the creation of brand new affordable housing, along with managing 37 units of senior housing and a project that we're working or attempting to work on here in the village of Southampton. I didn't hear in the meeting today about one of the most important conversations, a part of the campaign that happened just most recently, and that was what was the efforts and the plan and the process that we're going to make as the village of Southampton in the workforce housing. I would like to be a part of that conversation. I think we, as an agency, have demonstrated that we're experts in it. We're not talking about it, we're building it. So we would love to be a part of the conversation. We would love to be brought to the table. We would love to help start and create maybe even a commission to help out a plan to assess whether it be accessory apartments or the creation of new opportunities. I know legislatively now we open up other funding sources through the county where we can probably tap into, because part of the issue has always been revenue. How do we pay for these things? The cost in Southampton Village, it's huge. So we have to find a way to offset that. And now there may be opportunities to do that. I would love to work with each and every one of you to find a common ground to make some progress in something I think we haven't really focused a lot on. So I welcome it.
All right. Thank you. If there is no additional second public comment, there it is. Okay, we have plenty more.
Sheila Pfeiffer, 56 Hildreth Street, and I just was sort of embarrassed as a resident of the village to hear that we don't pay our employees minimum wage. There is a loophole for it. I realize you can't snap your fingers and change a wage scale, but I hope that will be taken into consideration in the future. We're talking about leading by example on a lot of other issues. It seems pretty basic to me. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with that, and I had obviously noticed that when we were going through the resolution, so we'll have to, Russell, we'll talk about that tomorrow, because I think that's a great point, and it's something we should do. So thank you. Okay, next public comment.
Christine Sullivan, Wicker, live on Cameron Street. I just wanted to bring up in relation to the noise, that 75 Main is, hopefully won't be swapped for the problems down the street. And the second thing was that in light of efforts, no balloons, that kind of thing, that the village of Patchogue in some form has passed a no idling for more than 10 minutes. I'm not sure if it's actually been written into law, but it just happened last week. And I was thinking that at Little Plains Beach, there is a sign that says no idling, which is very good looking. And I was just thinking if that could be elsewhere and perhaps at night behind Cinderella, because there are dumpsters and delivery trucks. I don't know, at 3:20 one night, a Monday night last week, I just went to see what was happening on. First, I thought it was outside my window, and it wasn't. But, I mean, the driver just said he was waiting for a key, and I told the manager. But it just seems like, it's getting very congested in terms of noise, all day, all night, just to think about it, and no idling for gas and pollution as well as noise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any additional public comment? With that said, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.